So Saturday we start off working on this Orange Nova for a friend of ours up in the old shop. Today we're going to be swapping this Monte 4-speed for a Tremec TKX 5-speed, and it's also the first time Tanner's changed a transmission that wasn't an automatic.
You got this, Stevie?
Apparently.
You don't have a choice,
I got coached into it. Billy goes yesterday. He's like, well, where do you want to pull the transmission out of this Nova?
Oh, that was nice. That's how he dropped it on your head.
Dropped it on my head. Then he says, I'll be here at noon. And it's 2:30.
Oh, you need to understand that he runs on a 2-hour deficit.
Okay. Yeah.
Minimum. Here's the problem. In order for this transmission job to get done today, we got to resurface the flywheel. And Mark closes at 4 o'clock. I better go check on that situation.
Yeah, I would go do that.
Generally, Mark's always there on Saturday, but not this time. Where's your incompetent leader at?
At home with his wife.
Well, I got a flywheel here we got to get turned today.
Well, I can turn your flywheel.
Are you sure? You're not going to run off and hide in the bushes, are you? You're not going to leave work early, close up shop, go to the ice cream shack?
Pretty nice, but I'm not wild.
All right. Well, don't let me down today, okay? I'll see you in a little bit.
Okay.
Word around town is lately Tyler's been having a little problem showing up late and leaving early. And at this point, unfortunately, the flywheel is still in the car, so I can't take it down right away. And I still need to make a run to Jegs to pick up some parts for Jimmy Dale's Monte Carlo, as well as a set of lug nuts for the Orange Nova. So I take an opportunity to hop into Monte Carlo and make its first maiden voyage to go see Uncle Terry at Jegs and really put the Monte Carlo into the wind on the highway for the very first time.
What's happening?
You should see the mess underneath Jimmy Dale's car.
Oh, I saw a little picture of it earlier today that you posted. Yeah, so there's a big mess.
Yeah, we need some springs for the back of this thing. Did they come in for me?
I got some springs. I got some springs.
Very good. And then
I
I
got
need some...
lug nuts for your Nova, for the Orange Nova.
Oh, very good. That's the other thing I'd come to ask you about.
Excellent. Excellent. What else?
I think that's it for right
All right,
now.
let me go grab you some spring.
Terry already had the lug nuts pulled and Jimmy Dale springs on the hold shelf out back. I also picked up a flywheel just in case thing one decides to head to the ice cream shack early.
Thanks, Uncle Terry.
No problem, Bill.
I would much rather have and not need than need and not have, and I can always return the flywheel if we don't need it. But Billy had showed up while I was gone and took the flywheel down to Mark's on his own.
Parts are on.
Billy and Tanner took the Supra down to Mark's to see thing one.
I trust him. Do you trust him? Sure.
Tyler took care of the flywheel for the boys in short order, and then they made a beeline back to the shop to get back on this car. Of course, knowing Billy, he might have been in a hurry just to come back and watch the basketball game. Unfortunately, they ran into a couple little issues and didn't get the transmission installed like they'd hoped. But there's always tomorrow. At least we've already got all the parts we need. Boys ran into a couple little snags last night working on this Nova, so it's not off a lift. It's no big deal. I don't really have anything major going on right now, but I do need to get my shop cleaned up. Oh my God, it's a disaster. But as you saw in my last video, my brother and my father bought this 1931 Ford Model A 5-window coupe. And my brother wants to put a 327 small block Chevy in it. Well, he happens to have a small block Chevy up at the farm, and I'm gonna go pick this thing up so that tomorrow when I go up to the machine shop, I can drop it off at Bob's. Bob just flew home from Florida yesterday. His first official day back at the machine shop will be Monday, tomorrow. So while I've got time and weather today, I want to clean out the back of the truck and get Jeremy's engine picked up and ready to go to the machine shop. Unfortunately, I won't be taking my associates with me. Their job for today will be to help Vicky clean the house. Once I turned over custody of my associates to Vicky, I jumped in the 64 and headed north up towards the farm. The weather the past few weeks has been unseasonably warm and dry for February here in central Ohio, and it's got Dad excited to get out in the field again and work ground. Dad had just begun making his first pass across the front field when I pulled in the 64. When I got there, I drove the truck straight up to the barn and backed up to the door so we could load up the engine that Jeremy already had sitting on a cradle and wrapped in cellophane. He had planned to take that engine up to Bob's himself a couple of weeks ago, but Jeremy stays pretty busy helping Dad up at the farm and keeping Dad out of trouble. Bob had already left for Florida a couple of weeks ago before Jeremy could get the engine delivered. At this point, it's probably going to be a couple of weeks before we can even get the engine tore apart to get started on it. But first things first, we've got to get it up to the machine shop regardless of how long it takes to get to it. For some reason, when the weather's nice, it seems like the time just flies by. But when it's cold, wet, and snowing here in Ohio, it seems like the winter's never going to end. So 2 or 3 trips down to Florida in the wintertime definitely help pass the time and break up what would normally be a pretty depressing time of year for us. But now that we're back, it's time to get busy in the shop.
We're back on the 5.3.
We're back.
So what are you doing? You're getting ready to warm this thing up and make a pull on it with the carburetor.
Just kind of make sure our numbers are very close to similar the other day.
Right.
We're still learning about everything.
Yeah, and then we're going to go ahead and put a different fuel-injected intake on it.
Yes.
This is actually the intake for House of Pearl's 6-liter engine, which is up here someplace.
Right.
We're going to make a pull on the carburetor and see where we're at, and then we're going to switch to EFI, and we're going to start down this road again with a different EFI intake.
Yep.
Because last time we dynoed it, it just had a stock GM truck intake manifold on it.
Correct.
And a lot of people said, well, that intake's junk. And blah, blah, blah.
We'll see. We'll try to compare it to the other one and see if it makes any more power or where it falls.
Right.
We're just going to probably do 2 or 3 pulls on it with that new stuff intake, and we're going to call it.
Okay. And then I've also got another intake down there at the shop we took off the Falcon. I was thinking about maybe bringing it up here.
Okay.
And we'd have to plug one set of injector holes because it had 2 sets of injectors in it.
Okay.
But it's a Brian Tooley, I don't know what it is. It's
Yeah.
a Brian Tooley intake for an LS. So we got a couple different intakes here we can try out on this thing before we pull it off the dyno and call the carburetor the ultimate winner. We're still trying, aren't we?
Here we are.
Okay. Well, let's go ahead and make a pull on this thing and let's see where it comes out today.
All righty.
So the same exact tune-up from a month ago, it made 446 and that was 444.
Yes.
So we're within 2 horsepower. It's a consistent little guy.
4 or 5 weeks ago?
Yeah,
whatever it was.
yeah. Almost a month ago.
Yeah.
Not bad.
So now with a baseline pull with a carburetor, we're going to go ahead and pull the carbureted intake off and switch to the Phytech intake and switch back to EFI. While Bob's busy pulling that intake manifold off, I decided to go over to the barn and check in on my old Chevy dually, which has been tucked away over here for the last several weeks. Basically, I just want to go in and fire it up and make sure that the battery's not dead and that the mice haven't got into it. As I walked in the barn to check on my truck, I realized there's something else in the barn too. Bob's got that 96 Corvette parked out there, and I forgot Bob even had that thing. I figure once I check my truck out and make sure my truck's okay, I'll remind him that the Corvette's still in that barn. Thankfully, my old dually fired right up and managed to pull itself out of the barn under its own power. I backed it outside and let it warm up for a few minutes and let the charging system charge the battery up a little bit. After a quick check of all the truck's vital signs, I decided to take it up the road and knock the rust off the brake drums and front brake rotors. Although the truck fired right up and runs and drives up the road like I parked it out there yesterday, there's some other issues creeping up on me that I need to get taken care of as soon as humanly possible.
Hey, did you happen to forget something over there in that barn? There's a freaking Corvette sitting over there in that barn. I forgot you had that.
Let's raffle.
Huh?
Let's just do something with that thing.
You want to get rid of him?
Yeah.
Oh my God. Listen, I'm not buying that Corvette. I've got my hands full buying that truck.
Yeah.
I got to get my truck out of there. The mice are going to carry it away.
Are they in it?
Oh my God.
Serious?
Oh.
Are they in the vet?
No. I looked in the vet. It smells perfectly fine.
We need to get that out of there.
Yeah, my truck, not so much.
Really?
Oh my God, it's a mess.
Who must have left food in there?
No, I don't know. There's mouse turds everywhere. They've been chewing the seats up and stuffing it in the heater box.
Oh, God.
It's a disaster. I better get that thing out of here. Well, I'm gonna go over here and see if this Corvette will start. I don't know how long the vet's been sitting in that barn. I forgot Bob even had that damn thing. That's the thing about having so many damn vehicles and so many things going on all the time. Hell, you can't hardly keep track of it. And try to keep them up and keep the maintenance up on them. That's the thing. Like my old Chevy, I don't know what the hell to do with that thing. I'll give it to buckwheat, I guess. I don't want to sell it. It ain't worth nothing to anybody but maybe me. Got 370,000 miles on it. I don't know. Anyway, let's go over here and see if this vet will start. All right. Oh God, I don't even know if I can get in this damn thing. Well, the interior light's not on. That's probably not a good sign. Nope. It's dead as a doornail. It's a nice car. Can't see hardly in here, but that Corvette's dead as a doornail. It's gonna have a battery put in it to get it started.
It's got a new battery, just probably sat over there while we were out of town.
So you definitely want to get rid of it?
Yep.
All right, so we run into a little bit of a snag here today. The fuel rails that we used on the stock intake manifold, it had the fuel pressure regulator built into it right there on the return side. But the fuel rails that we're using now do not have a regulator built into them. So it's just bypassing all the fuel back to the tank. So I'm gonna have to go to Jegs tomorrow and pick up a fuel pressure regulator so we can fire up the LS with this different intake on it. Well, crud, Uncle Bob. That put the kibosh to us.
Yeah, well, this is one of the problems of running with the LS, adding knowing what we gotta add.
Yeah.
I haven't had any problem with the other fuel tech and all that stuff.
Right. All right, well, I'll go to Jegs in the morning and go get a fuel pressure regulator. We'll plumb that in, and maybe tomorrow we can fire it up with this thing.
Yep.
So that brings us to Tuesday morning, another beautiful day here in Central Ohio for February. And this morning, the boys are busy out in the shop working on the Orange Nova. So far, they've managed to get the front stock disc brakes replaced with the Hot Boys from Strange. And with a little bit of luck, hopefully they'll have the transmission up in it by the time I get home this afternoon.
Good morning, everybody. So talked to Bob this morning. He's working on some things up at the machine shop. He's not going to be ready to try and start that engine on the dyno until later this afternoon. So I'm going to take a little trip into Jack's Wax and check on the 55 and the Malibu to see how they're doing. I figured I'd drive the Monte Carlo in there so they can take a look at it. It needs a little bit of detail work too, but I'd like to get their opinion on a few things on this car before I pull the trigger on anything.
While the Monte Carlo is definitely nice and the paint looks really good on it, it still needs some detail work done that I think is probably best left to a professional. So I figured I'd run a few things past Jared Miner, the president of Jack's Wax and the CEO of the Wax Palace, otherwise known as the Jack's Wax Showroom. They've been working on my Malibu and Billy's 55 Chevy, getting them ready for a full detail job with paint correction. And when I pulled in the Monte Carlo, it didn't take long for Todd and Jared to come out and put their eyes on it.
Am I wearing you out yet?
Not yet. You're gonna have the cleanest cars in Columbus.
The whole batch of them.
Yeah.
So this thing is really, really nice. It's obviously been repainted recently.
Yes.
But it's got some detail work that I'd like to maybe get some advice on. You know, maybe something I could do myself, or maybe even just help people at home that have these same problems. So when the car was wet sanded and buffed, there's a lot of compound stuck in like the little creases and crevices down in the door jambs.
It's pretty common.
Yeah, pretty common. So how do you tackle that?
We have these really soft detail brushes that you just take like a detail spray it in there, hit it with that soft brush, and just wipe it out with microfiber. It's just
You're
soft.
kidding me.
No, it's super easy.
Really?
Yeah, it's not a problem at all.
I might have Tidy look at this thing.
Well, this one he'll love because this is the best one you've ever brought. From conditions, seriously, this paint's done. Whoever did this, it's really nice.
So believe it or not, this guy painted this thing in his barn, a pole barn.
That's very surprising because it's really nice.
It is. It's really, really nice.
Yes. This is nothing. I mean, this is for Zach at Tidy Rides. This is a quick job. I mean, nothing's quick with black.
Right.
But
right.
this is good. This surface is really good.
So I've been saving up little pieces here and there, like these emblems. These were actually red originally, and I've got brand new GM ones in the trunk.
Cool.
The lock cover for the deck lid, I've got that in the trunk. I've got a brand new hood ornament for it. Like, I've got a whole bunch of little details to make the car really look nice again. I just put new headlight bezels in it.
That looks good.
Yeah.
Man, it's like obviously the first time I've seen it in person. It's very, very clean.
It's not bad.
No, it is not.
It's not bad.
Really nice. These are easy to get?
No. So if you want aftermarket, yeah, you can get it anywhere.
Yeah.
But new old stock stuff, I might as well be restoring a 50s Cadillac.
Oh, wow. They're out there. They exist. You know?
Yeah, like the sail panel emblems were $189 plus shipping.
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
They're proud of them.
Yeah, and you can't find like the taillight lenses and the chrome bezels. See how they're a little bit, I don't know what you'd call that.
Was it sold originally at McDormand?
It was sold new in McDormand's. The guy who bought it originally moved to Virginia for a while, and then it was parked in Virginia for years. And then when the guy passed away, his family brought it back to Columbus and then sold it to Sean Young, a friend of mine, and he painted it and sold it to me.
It's really, really nice.
So we're making progress today, Uncle Bob.
Well, we're trying.
How did your conversation go this morning with...
Yeah, Fuel Tech, Cody at Fuel Tech is unbelievably
Very helpful.
very helpful. He logged right on and put in a bass tune to where we could get this thing started, and then we're going to log back on with him. And he's going to help us make adjustments so we make sure that we do the very best we can.
This will be the first time we've tried EFI with E85. So that's why the
Yes.
bass tune has to be changed. Like you had to call into Fuel Tech this morning and Cody got on the laptop with you and help you get a bass tune set up so that we can fire it up on E85. And
That's correct, yeah, because we had a lot of stuff stored in there from even the carburation stuff. It was still storing that stuff.
oh, okay.
And so we've got a lot of data in there from everything.
Yeah.
And also, we was, because of the timing was changed, because we were advancing it up, we did
Right.
set it at 38, 36, 30, whatever. Now we wanted to go back to 30 with EFI and to get a baseline just like we did before.
Yeah. Very good. Well, we'll see how it goes here in a minute, huh?
Yeah, that's right.
So now that we've got this Aeromotive fuel pressure regulator installed, we can now build 65 pounds of fuel pressure in the fuel rails. But once the fuel system began to build pressure, we found we have another potentially very dangerous problem.
So we're having a little bit of trouble here with fuel leaks on the fuel rails. We may not even have the right injectors. Bob and I are both newbies this EFI thing. We don't really have any idea if we're doing the right things or not.
So
But-
we're trying to use what we got.
We're trying to use what we got. So if we can get this thing to seal up and quit leaking, we can probably fire this thing up. These are the same injectors we had in the stock intake, but we've never used a Phytech intake. I don't know, maybe we don't have the right injectors, but every time we try and tighten down the fuel rail, it kind of wants to twist the rail on top of the injector, and then the injectors want to seep and leak and spray fuel out. So the problem is these injector rails have tie downs, two of them, one on each end, but they're only on one side, and when you tighten them down, it's like it wants to twist the rail, and then it makes the O-rings on the top of the injectors leak, and then it blows fuel out at us, doesn't it, Bob?
Mm-hmm.
At high pressure, 65 pounds. Mm-hmm. And if we hold our mouth just right, we can get it to stay sealed without the engine running.
Mm-hmm.
But we're scared that if we start the engine, we might have to call on Uncle Nick out here. Where did he go? He's hiding from me.
Nick is a full-time fireman and works at Bob's as a mechanic on his days off from the firehouse.
Nick's bashful. He don't like being on camera. Firemen just love to sit around and pick at each other, don't they?
24 hours straight.
We're not trying to use Nick's expertise today, are we, Uncle Bob? We don't need those
We
problems.
don't need problems.
We don't need Jimmy Dale problems either.
No.
Nick said, just think of all the views you'll get if it goes up in flames. And Bob says, just get out of here.
Nick came up with some spacers and shims to more securely mount the rails, and we eventually got all the O-rings on the injectors to seal up.
All right, it looks like we finally got fuel pressure to hold. And Nick here, our fireman friend, has helped us bolt these fuel rails down a little bit more securely. And hopefully we're going to be able to make some steam with this thing here in just a minute. Is this it, Uncle Bob?
I don't know.
Got something we can cut this with? Just so we're ready? We think we better be ready. All right, here we go. All right, so we got it fired up. It fired right up. It didn't give us too much trouble. So that's a good sign, but it's struggling a little bit to take throttle. It's got a little lean spot in it. So we're gonna work on that for a minute.
Obviously, the engine sounded much different fuel injected than it does with the carburetor, and I think most of that has to do with either the tune or possible vacuum leak, and Bob felt the same way.
I finally got it temporarily put it back together. It started and it ran. The accelerator pump, when you go to the accelerator, it doesn't work very well.
It doesn't have one.
That's
the whole problem.
So right now you are on YouTube with Bill Hopkins.
No pressure, Cody. No pressure at all.
After the last 2 years of going to PRI and talking to people about setting up his dyno with fuel injection, Bob felt that Fuel Tech gave the best technical support.
So what we did was he went for internet remote tuning, so he jumped on here, and so he's going to run this thing. He's going to make the changes.
Okay.
Cody from Fuel Tech logged on to Bob's laptop remotely and started looking at the tune-up to see what, if anything, was wrong.
Okay, fire it up.
The instant that we started the engine and began to manipulate the throttle, Cody could tell that there was something wrong. And this is what's amazing about electronic fuel injection. Someone thousands of miles away can view data in real time and determine that there's a problem and help us pinpoint it so that we can move forward with our dyno session. By this time, it was pretty late in the day and Bob was exhausted, so we decided to pack it in and come back tomorrow.
Well, good morning, everybody. Hey, Tanner, what day is it? Wednesday? Wednesday. This morning, we have a new job to tackle here at the shop. Months and months and months ago, last summer sometime, there was a Crown Vic delivered to my driveway unexpectedly, unannounced to me. This was a Kenny and Rob job. Kids used it to go to trails for the demolition derby drags. And I told Kenny and I told Rob, don't bring a pile of shit here that doesn't have a title, because I don't want to get stuck with a pile of shit that doesn't have a title. I got stuck with a pile of shit that doesn't have a title. I had somebody call me yesterday who would like to come and get this car and use it for parts or scrap. I don't know. The main thing is it's leaving today. I hope. We just have to get it dug out back here first. So this is a new addition to the backyard. And then there's that and that and that. That was a Tommy project. That still is a Tommy project. And that is also a Tommy project. But that is a Kenny and a Rob job that never left. Now, I can't remember what the situation was when that Ford got parked back there, but I figure it's got a rod out of it or the transmission shot and won't move itself. So I prepare for the worst and hope for the best. I'm fully prepared to push that thing out of there with the excavator, but Tanner decided to bring the jump pack down and give the old Ford a fighting chance. What?
I told you to start.
Unbelievably, this pile of shit still runs and drives and moves itself under its own power. So for now, the old Ford has been spared from the excavator bucket and potentially being whistle and dieseled up to the shop.
Well, that process was a lot easier than I thought it was going to be.
I figured this thing would start right up.
Yeah, I got my excavator out just in case.
We were going to put that through the roof and pick it up.
I still can.
Let me get out first.
Now, in my opinion, this Ford isn't the only thing we've got around here that could use a good whistle and diesel treatment. So there was a little situation last night.
I heard.
Yeah, I was on my way home from Bob's. I got the call, Tojo down. Last night there was a little situation with Tojo the Supra, and it had to be drug home on the end of a tow rope behind the 64 C10. You see, Billy had a rough day yesterday. It started with trying to peel the wrap off this Toyota and ended with a broken timing chain tensioner, which led to using Jeremy's bore scope to determine if a valve had hit a piston. But the camera fell off the bore scope and now it's trapped in the cylinder, and now the cylinder head has to come off regardless. So the morale in the shop is pretty low, but outside,
what a glorious sight. This thing leaving at last. This is my Valentine's present. Happy Valentine's Day to me.
although the Ford leaving made Vicky happy, once she returned to her office, her morale took a torpedo hit to the starboard side. The bad luck out in the main shop has made its way into the merch area and knocked out the router and the internet connection in the office. Well, you guys have fun working on Tojo. I gotta head up to the machine shop.
You get to have fun all the day. We don't have fun on this.
Nothing's fun about this. So while Buckwheat and Tanner work on tearing the head off of Tojo, I hop in the dually and start heading to Bob's. Hopefully, I leave all this bad juju behind me at our shop so that whatever it is doesn't affect our dyno session today. So what's a good word, Uncle Bob?
Progress.
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 Did we find out what the situation was with the possible vacuum leak?
Yes. The IAC, we had to plug it off, and it was leaking by.
Oh, okay.
So we got
You mentioned that yesterday.
Yeah, we got that resolved, and started right out and idle good. This morning was on quite a while. This morning with the guys from Fuel Tech, and we made a pull on it. Made good horsepower. We either we ran out of fuel or we have maybe the injectors ain't big enough. I got to make another pull here to see where we're at.
Okay. Sounds a lot better today. That vacuum leak was messing it up. That sounded pretty good. What'd it make, Bob?
442, I believe.
Not bad. Not bad.
So we just made a pull. It made what was it? 442.
Yeah, it made 442.
42, and on the top side above 60. What was it, Cody? 60.
60, right at 64.
64, it started going lean, and the duty cycle in the injectors was 100%, and we were losing a little bit of fuel pressure. So,
The injectors are too small.
well, that's what we're thinking.
Well, I mean, it shows on the dyno because, like, we made 447 with the carburetor
Yeah.
and made 395 foot-pounds of torque.
Yeah.
This just made 442, but the torque was way down. What was it? It was
Yeah.
3 something.
Yeah.
It was way down.
Honestly, I think if it had the right set of injectors, that Phytech intake would have made more power than the carburetor. So maybe, just maybe, our luck is starting to turn around. And we're about to find out because this Nova that came in a few weeks ago looking like a full-blown car show poser is about to go down the road for the first time with a brand new set of Hot Boy disc brakes and a new Moser 9-inch rear end and a Tremec TKX 5-speed transmission behind a ZZ 572 big block crate motor. It makes well over 600 horsepower on pump gas, so it's going to be interesting to see whether or not the clutch and the transmission hold up to the abuse that this big block can dish out.
All right, guys, so the 572 Big Block Nova is ready to go home, isn't it, Steve? Hey, you did a really good job putting that clutch in. That was your first time ever, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's the first time I've ever put a manual transmission in, so.
Nice. We did a good job. I mean, the clutch in this car is perfect. It doesn't chatter. It doesn't vibrate, nothing. It's, hey, shout out to Thing One down to day one, right?
Yeah.
He got it done. So this thing is about to head home. We're going to send it home to its owner. We don't own that car. It belongs to a friend of ours. And I think he's taking it to Florida. I'm not sure. It's got a Florida tag on it, so I'm sure it's probably going back to Florida. But I'm really excited to get started on this. because this is going to get the same transmission that has in it. It's a TKX 5-speed Tremec transmission, same transmission we put in Mom and Dad's 55 Chevy. Really excited about that. And honestly, driving that thing made me want to put a 572 big block in that, because that thing is a lot of fun to drive, isn't it, Steve-O?
It gets down.
It does. I mean, for a pump gas motor, you couldn't ask for better street manners.
It doesn't get hot, nothing.
No, it doesn't. Honestly, it runs like 180 degrees. It's got a thermostat. It does have a mechanical fan. I'm sure that helps, a big aluminum radiator. Yeah, I took it down yesterday, put pump gas in it, filled it up with 92, and it runs and drives. You couldn't ask for it to run and drive any better. It's got really good brakes. It's got Hot Boys all the way around it with a power brake booster. Brakes for days.
Hey, he complimented my brake job.
Who did?
This guy.
Oh, did you put the brakes on?
I sure did.
Yeah, you did a good job on the brakes too, Steve-O. You did really good. So this thing is just about to head out, and we're going to get started on this thing here pretty soon. I've been gathering parts and pieces for the Monte Carlo. I've got new emblems for it. You know, like you saw in the video, I'm going to take it into Jack's Wax, and they're going to remove every emblem off this car, paint correction, polish it, and then they're going to install all new emblems, so long as I can find all the emblems. There's only one of them I haven't been able to find so far, and that's the little Monte Carlo emblem right there beside the grill or above the grill. I've found pretty much everything else I need, except for one taillight bezel. I need a new driver's side taillight bezel, or I need to find someone who can strip these and replate them. They're plastic. I'm still working on that. But this thing's going to be really nice. I want to take it down to Callus Custom Upholstery in Buckeye Lake. As soon as the weather's fit. It's starting to turn nasty again outside now. It's getting cold, and they're talking about snow and rain, but eventually I want to take it down there someday and have them look at the interior. The factory red interior, it looks decent in video and in pictures, but the door panels are faded really bad, and my Malibu honestly is the same way. And the plastics in these cars are known for being brittle and fading, especially red. Red usually fades to purple. It's terrible. But I want to get the whole interior covered in a real nice, maybe like a velour or some. I don't really want vinyl seats in it, but I want it to look factory, just not be factory. But I'm really looking forward to it. This is going to get a TKX 5-speed, and most likely that 440-inch small block that's up at Bob's. I was going to put it in my Malibu. I think that's out of the question. I think I'm going to put it in this. And the reason I'm going to put it in this is because currently it's the only block that I have that has billet main caps. The block in my Malibu just has cast iron main caps. But that block that the 440 is built out of has billet steel main caps, and I want it for a turbo application. And this is going to get twins. How you like that? You can't see them, but they're out there shooting. My neighbors are out there shooting. There's always something to screw up the audio. Always. It never fails. Oh, the speaker. Rob's speaker back here constantly. Anyway, that's going to about do it for this video, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. If you haven't yet gotten entered for the 5.3 Junkyard Dog giveaway, go to oldmansgarage.shop. Anything you buy on the website from now until the end of the month gets you entered to win that. And you never know, I may even bring that engine to you. It just depends on who wins it and where they're at in the whole situation. You may be able to come here and get it. I don't know. But we'll see what happens. Don't forget, you got till the end of the month.